Everything's dark, even the sky. I'll never get out. He's turned them all against me. Even Betty. They keep talking about me. Why won't they let me alone? Oh my God. Oh no, don't let them take me in there. I'll never get out. Oh God, what will happen to me now?
For the longest time, mental health illnesses were believed to be caused by demonic possessions, witchcraft, as well as an angry god. The majority of these people were then burned at the stake. The first mental health institute dates back to the 5th century in the Middle East, but mental asylums didn't really become used until the 18th and 19th centuries. Asylums during this time were mostly used to isolate those with psychological disorders. The goal was to keep these people from society, not to genuinely treat their disorders. As you can imagine, the conditions were quite cruel. Oftentimes there were no windows, and if there were, they had bars enclosing them. Patients were often beaten, chained to their beds, and had little to no attention from nurses or any caregivers. Rooms and common areas were left filthy, and bathrooms were filled with bacteria. Once patients were admitted into a mental institution, they were often kept there for decades without any leave, and of course this was done involuntarily. Patients often received no care, but instead were tortured with different variations of treatments. Seemingly the most popular treatment was the electroshock therapy. Patients were strapped down onto a bed by their arms and legs, and usually they placed a mouth guard or something in their mouth to avoid the patient from biting their tongue. Doctors then placed the device onto their temples and would send electricity throughout their entire body to produce a generalized seizure. Many patients left with a broken back as well as disoriented memories. Lobotomies were another commonly performed treatment. A doctor would go into a patient's eye with a rod-looking instrument to damage neural connections in the prefrontal cortex. While lobotomies did sometimes stop bad behaviors associating with their psychological disorders, they also severed memories, personalities, and took a chunk away from a person every time one was performed. In the 18th and 19th century, patients were not patients. They were considered more of a prisoner and seen as a criminal. They were to feel bad that they had these psychological disorders that they could not control. But slowly over time, what we knew as insane asylums then became known as mental hospitals. Although conditions now are much better than before, there still seems to be flaws in the system. There is still a severe lack of funding towards mental health care, making it very difficult to build facilities and properly treat those with illnesses. Lack of funding inhibits the production of medications as well as funding towards people like therapists, psychiatrists, psychologists, and so forth. Funding also affects insurance companies and what an individual is able to receive with their coverage. This majorly affects medications as it is not free for medications and most people have to pay for their prescriptions. This also affects one's access to a therapist, a psychologist, and a psychiatric hospital if needed. While reviewing the history of mental health institutions, I've seen how inhumane these people have been treated, as well as the polluted environment they were forced to stay in. From the 18th and 19th century, the mental health field has developed in the right direction tremendously. We still have some growing to do, but conditions are considerably improved. Patients are not treated as prisoners and are provided with many different treatment options to better one's health. And just to put all of this into perspective for you, 1 in 4 people in the world suffer from a mental disorder at some point in their lives.
But I am well, and I know it. I'm able to face the world again, my own hometown. I suppose there'll be some folks who'll stare and talk and sneer. But no matter what they say or do, one thing I know. These people here, this place and time, have given my life back to me.